A human male diplomat arrives at an alien space station for treaty negotiations and discovers his assigned alien partner is a stunning female warrior from a species that values strength above all else. The aliens believe humans are weak and unworthy of alliance, so the partnership seems doomed from the start. During a casual conversation, the human jokes about pretending to be her romantic partner to make the negotiations easier, and she surprises him by agreeing, but insists they need practice, because no one will believe it. They begin their fake relationship. But the cultural differences create hilarious and tense moments, as humans show affection very differently than her species does, as they spend time together preparing for the grand negotiation ceremony. They start discovering unexpected things about each other that challenge their preconceptions. The alien female warrior named Kira begins seeing that human emotional intelligence and creativity are forms of strength her people never understood. The human male named Jake realizes that beneath her tough warrior exterior, Kira has dreams and vulnerabilities she cannot show her own people. Their fake relationship becomes complicated when real feelings start developing, but both are afraid to admit it because the alliance depends on maintaining professional boundaries. During a crisis on the station where a reactor malfunction threatens everyone, Jake uses human ingenuity and quick thinking to save lives while Kira protects civilians with her combat skills. The aliens witness humans demonstrating courage and intelligence in ways they never expected, earning their respect. Jake and Kira must decide whether to continue pretending or risk everything by making their relationship real, even though it could complicate the fragile new alliance between their peoples. The story ends with them choosing honesty over pretense, finding that their genuine connection becomes the strongest foundation for lasting peace between humans and aliens. Complete story. Jake Martinez stood at the viewport of the orbital station, watching ships drift past like silver fish in an endless dark ocean, and wondering how badly he had messed up his career this time. The diplomatic corps had sent him here to negotiate a mining treaty with the Varrock Empire, and everyone knew the Varrock considered humans to be soft, weak creatures barely worth their attention. Behind him, footsteps echoed on the metal floor, and he turned to see his assigned Varrock partner approaching. Kira stood nearly 7 feet tall with silver skin that seemed to shimmer under the station lights, and her eyes were a deep violet that reminded him of Earth storms, and she moved with the fluid grace of a predator. She stopped a few feet away and looked him up and down with obvious disappointment on her face. "You are the human diplomat they sent," she said, and her voice carried the same dismissive tone he had heard from every Varrock he had met. So far, Jake forced a smile and extended his hand, which she stared at like he had offered her a dead fish. "We shake hands as a greeting," he explained and demonstrated by shaking his own hand awkwardly. Kira made a sound that might have been a laugh or a snort and turned away, gesturing for him to follow. "The negotiations will begin in 3 cycles," she said as they walked through the gleaming corridors of the station. "And you should know that my people have little faith in this alliance." Jake had read the reports and knew the Varrock respected only physical strength and military prowess, and humans had neither in quantities that impressed them. Over the next few days he tried every diplomatic approach he knew, but Kira remained cold and professional, treating him like a necessary annoyance. One evening they were reviewing contract terms in a shared workspace when frustration finally got the better of him. "You know, this would be a lot easier if your people did not think humans were completely useless," he said. Kira looked up from her datapad with one elegant eyebrow raised. "Your people are not useless," she replied, "and they are simply weak, and that is different." Jake laughed despite himself, because at least she was being honest. "Maybe we need a different approach," he said. "And what if we pretended to be personally involved romantically, and it might make the negotiations smoother if they thought we had a genuine connection?" He had meant it as a joke, but Kira set down her datapad and studied him with those intense violet eyes. "That could work," she said slowly. "But we would need practice convincing people, and no one will buy it if we cannot even stand near each other comfortably." Jake blinked in surprise because he had not expected her to take him seriously. "You want to fake a relationship?" he asked. "It is logical," she replied, "and my people respect personal bonds, and if they believe we care for each other, they might view humans more favorably through that lens. And so they began the strangest partnership Jake had ever experienced. Kira explained that Varrock showed affection through demonstrations of trust, like allowing someone to stand at their back during combat, or sharing food from the same plate. Jake taught her about human customs like holding hands, and standing close and laughing at each other jokes. The practice sessions were awkward at first because Kira kept forgetting to smile, and Jake kept forgetting not to flinch when she moved suddenly. But slowly something shifted between them. One night, they were walking through the station observation deck where the stars stretched endlessly, and Kira suddenly asked why humans cared so much about things like art and music. Because beauty matters, Jake said simply, and just because we are not the strongest species does not mean we cannot create things that last forever. Kira was quiet for a long moment, and when she spoke, her voice was softer than he had ever heard it. My people used to create beauty too, she said, but we forgot how when we decided strength was all that mattered. Jake saw something in her expression, then something vulnerable and lonely that she quickly hid behind her warrior mask. As the negotiation ceremony approached, they spent more time together, and Jake found himself looking forward to their practice sessions. Kira had a sharp wit that caught him off guard, and she asked thoughtful questions about Earth and human culture. He learned that she loved starship engineering and had designed improvements for Varrock fleet systems, but her superiors dismissed her ideas because innovation was seen as weakness. She learned that he had joined the diplomatic corps after his sister died in a colony raid because he believed talking was stronger than fighting. They were sitting in the station garden one evening surrounded by bioluminescent plants when Kira suddenly reached over and took his hand. "This is how humans show trust," she said, but it was phrased like a question. Jake squeezed her fingers gently and realized with startling clarity that this had stopped being pretend somewhere along the way. The night before the ceremony, alarms suddenly blared through the station. The reactor core was overheating, and if it breached, the entire station would be destroyed. Varrock warriors rushed toward the engineering section, but the radiation levels were already lethal for their species. Jake ran toward the reactor core, pulling on an emergency suit, while Kira shouted at him to stop. "Humans can tolerate more radiation," he called back. "And I know station systems because I studied the schematics." He worked frantically in the core chamber, rerouting coolant and bypassing damaged controls, while his suit sensors screamed warnings. Meanwhile, Kira coordinated evacuation of the civilian section, showing leadership and compassion. Her people rarely acknowledged. When Jake finally emerged from the reactor chamber, exhausted and radiation sick, he found Kira waiting with medical staff. "You saved everyone," she said, and there was something fierce and proud in her eyes. "You protected everyone," he replied, "and that is strength too." The ceremony happened 2 days later after Jake had recovered, and the Varrock Council had witnessed everything. The lead counselor stood before the assembly and spoke words that shocked everyone. "We have seen that humans possess courage and sacrifice, and these are forms of strength. We failed to recognize the treaty was signed and the alliance was formed." Afterward, Jake found Kira standing alone at the viewport where they had first met. "So what happens now?" he asked. She turned to him, and for the first time since he had known her, she smiled genuinely. "I think we stop pretending," she said. "And I think we make this real if you are willing." Jake took her hand, the gesture natural now after all their practice. "I think I stopped pretending a long time ago," he admitted. They stood together watching the ships drift past, knowing that what had started as diplomatic necessity had become something neither of them expected. Love had built a bridge between two species, and sometimes the strongest foundations were built not on power, but on genuine connection between two people willing to see past their differences. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers, but Jake and Kira had proven that understanding could be the greatest strength of all.